Hey, it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Saturday, August 14th. So the moon is going to be in Scorpio all day. We are building towards the first quarter moon in Scorpio early Sunday morning, which means that this is going to be a very compressed energy in order for us to gain as much soul growth, as much transformation emotionally and in our mental plane as much as possible as we kind of build the energy to taking action on our new intentions, on our new focus, on our new goals. There are 10 different moon aspects taking place out of 12 aspects taking place in the cosmos today. And we are definitely hell-bent on now rolling up our sleeves and actually doing something to create the change that we want to see happen. We are in the manifestation stage where we've thought about our intentions, we've been tested on our intentions, we've had to refine our plans. Now we're looking to actually make a step forward. So the moon in Scorpio is going to make a beautiful aspect with the sun in Leo right out of the gate here today. And this is going to be a beautiful, genius, aha moment where we, yes, need to take a look at the dark parts of ourselves. And instead of creating a division between the old and the new, now we're going to merge them. We're going to integrate them. Why? Because we've recognized that you can't just create a division between the heart and the head, or the good and the bad, or the dark and the light. That disempowers you. What we have to do is recognize that we need those dark forces. We need those darker energies inside of us to motivate us to constantly take a step towards the light. So now it's not like we're segregating the old from the new. Now we're looking to see how it is that we can bond them, merge them together. When we take the old and the new, the good and the bad, the light and the dark, and we squeeze them together, we stand in our power. This really does raise our vibration. Like I said in previous day forecasts where we were really tested by those darker forces, anger, frustration, irritability are some of the powerful emotions that we can use to make changes, to make work for us instead of damaging us and make things work against us. And we can't separate those lower negative vibrations from us because that would be giving our power away. So we wake up with the energy of knowing, of having a perspective, aha moment, that we can't separate the old from the new. We can't be afraid of the darkness. We have to embody it. We have to integrate it. We have to stand in the power, good, bad, or otherwise. Now, this is setting us up for some beautiful energies because the moon in Scorpio sextiles Mercury in Virgo. This is not only going to help us think in a more positive and powerful tone, it's going to help us speak in a more powerful and productive way. We have the ability right now to communicate very clearly, to express ourselves 100% confidently, 100% empowered. This is an opportunity to have a good heart-to-heart, a good talk. Now, granted, Mercury in Virgo is not so good with the emotions, but it is good to know that we are speaking practically, factually. It is what it is. And that moon in Scorpio is where we're speaking from our soul, speaking from our heart space, speaking even about the negative situations and the negative emotions that we now want to use to empower ourselves, empower our relationships. Venus in Virgo goes ahead and bumps into Jupiter retrograde in Aquarius. And this is a little bit of a tension point, a little bit of an opportunity to learn, because what we're doing here, especially when we arise to the occasion to have that heart-to-heart that we're going to be presented with, that opportunity for us to communicate with confidence and clarity, what we recognize is, especially in our personal relationships, likely with the relationship aspect that proved to be that external trigger for us just the day before, creating uncertainty, creating indecision, creating, all of that old energy where we had old attachments that we've been working very hard to kind of overcome and grow past. Now we're recognizing that when we speak our truth, when we speak factual, it is what it is, but from a heart space that understands the good, the bad, and the ugly is absolutely necessary in order to strengthen our connection, to grow that intimate bond with those that we value. Now, this particular aspect between Venus and Jupiter is showing us that we can grow through the hardest parts. We have to grow through our heart space. We have to grow through aligning our heart space with our mental plane, which is exactly what the moon in Scorpio sextiling Mercury and Virgo actually did for us. Now, the caution that I will throw you here is that because Venus in Virgo, again, highly judgmental, highly critical, especially on oneself, especially in relationships. Jupiter, of course, acting as the magnifier, turning the volume all the way up on whatever emotion we're choosing to embody at this time, could illuminate for us where it is that we're having some emotions, some thoughts that are over exaggerated, that are just extra. And it likely will illuminate on some selfishness. Now, whether this is recognizing our own selfishness in our relationships, where it is we've been too much advocating for ourselves, not recognizing where the other person is coming from, it will likely manifest in a destruction of picking oneself apart. But we could also be picking apart those that we love. This is a relationship aspect, and we're very vulnerable at this time. We're trying to be open-hearted, but we're also trying to be open-headed too. And again, the head is very connected to analyzing and facts, and it is what it is and doesn't have a whole lot of empathy or room for emotion. So we want to understand that this is going to be a tension-filled point of energy where, yes, there's a huge opportunity to learn about ourselves, learn about other people, grow the relationship, strengthen the bond through having a heart-to-heart, but it's likely that some ugly stuff has to kind of come up and be illuminated in order for us to actually resolve that. Now, that being said, the moon in Scorpio bumps into Neptune, retrograde in Pisces. Now, let me tell you, the moon is water, Scorpio is water, Neptune is water, Pisces is water. Neptune in Pisces is retrograde, meaning there's an inner transformation taking place in our feelings, in our emotions. Now, this particular aspect between the moon and Neptune is a tension point. And let me tell you, things are going to get overly exaggerated, especially from however the situation goes between Venus being in Virgo, bumping into Jupiter in Aquarius. That earlier conversation, that growth point and where things get ugly in order for us to resolve them. But the moon and Neptune making this tension point is extreme emotion, extreme hypersensitivity. This is almost where we go off the deep end and we become very unrealistic with our thoughts, with our feelings, with our expectations for ourselves, for other people. And literally it becomes so much, so extra, so much to deal with that we just want to escape. We want to check out. We don't want to feel this. This is highlighting the dark parts that the moon in Scorpio needs to find, needs to unearth in order to bring them to the surface, to be illuminated and healed. Does it feel good? Absolutely not. It is so volatile right now because we're picking ourselves apart. We're picking other people apart. We don't know how to solve anything. We're becoming consumed and overwhelmed. We're drowning in these energies and in these emotions. And the moon in Scorpio bumps into the true node. And the true node, of course, wants us to continue to focus in our mind's eye the growth that we need to do, the path that we need to follow in order to bring our dreams and visions to life. But of course, we're not in a very good heart space. We're not in a very good mental place. And there is an aspect here where we are almost creating a blockage for ourselves. Of course, when you're this overwhelmed with emotion, when you're picking up on the energies inside of yourself, outside of yourself, external realms, the whole cosmos, and things become so overwhelming and hypersensitive that you don't even want to be in your own skin, you best believe that this is going to create a huge blockage in the heart space, in the mental plane, and of course, in our efforts to actually take action and move forward. So this is going to really highlight for us the darkness, the shadow part that Scorpio moon needs to highlight in order for us to rework it. We need to rewrite the script here. This is a huge opportunity for us to turn something dark into light, to turn something that is very painful into a source of power. But of course, we have to slow our brain down. We have to tame the emotional waters within in order for us to come back down to earth long enough to even see where a solution could actually emerge. Now, here's another thing that isn't going to help us out at this particular point in time. Mars in Virgo is going to make a tension point with Pluto in a retrograde in Capricorn. Little fun fact for you here, Mars, the god of war, Pluto, the god of the underworld, the darkness and the shadow side, they are both rulers over Scorpio energy. So there is a huge connection here that this is super intense. This is a power trip. This is anger. This is rage. This is our temper just flaring up. This is all the darkness, all the pain, all the trauma suddenly coming to the surface so freaking quickly that we don't even know how to process it. And we're being tested at this particular point in the day to see what it is that we're going to do with all of this intensity, what it is that we're going to do with all of these emotions. Of course, Mars in Virgo, very frustrated, very irritable, wants to lash out, wants to take action, wants to make things happen, but of course can't unless it's strategic and practical and part of the plan. And Pluto in a retrograde in Capricorn is trying to illuminate the fears and the pain and the trauma and the insecurity, where it is that we have given our power away in the past. And also, here's going to be a slap in the face for us, where it is that we have misused our own power. Pluto illuminates for us where it is that we've been manipulated and where it is that we manipulate, where it is that we use our emotions to influence our decisions and where we use the emotions of others to do what it is that we want. This is a huge illumination, a huge test by the universe at this particular point in the day on what are you going to do with this energy. Are you going to use it for good or are you going to use it for evil? We have an opportunity here to recognize all of the negative and turn it into a positive. We have the opportunity to sit in the darkness and still choose to get up off our ass and make that journey towards the light. We have the opportunity to sit in our pain and let it destroy us, or we have the choice to use our pain and to make us even more powerful. The moon in Scorpio doesn't help things, goes ahead and squares Saturn. Now, here's the thing. A square is a tension point. It is a crisis point. As you may have already seen, we are in a crisis point already inside of us. In our realms, we are overwhelmed. We are hyperstimulated. We are seeing the darker forces emerge within us, of course, divinely scripted to do so that we can make a choice on what it is that we're going to do with this energy. And the moon in Scorpio squaring Saturn retrograde in Aquarius is going to give us an opportunity to either dive into the lack of worth, the negative Nancy narrative, the pain, let's set up camp here, the trauma, let's talk about my victim story, the misuse of power, on how I've been manipulated, how I've been controlled, the me, sorry me, poor me narrative, or whether or not we're going to boss the hell up. Whether or not we're going to take control over these very dark, intense, powerful emotions, and whether or not we're going to use them to transform into something more powerful, more light, more positive. It's not going to be easy, but here's the thing. The moon in Scorpio goes ahead and sextiles, which is a good aspect, thank goodness, with Mars in Virgo, and Mars rules over Scorpio energy. What does this mean? It means that the choice point that we've been given, now we have to take an action on. Mars needs to take an action, make a physical movement to take one step forward into the light or one step backwards into the darkness. Those are your options. Now, the moon in Scorpio, the whole job here is to alchemize, to turn the pain into power, to turn the darkness into light. But we have every single opportunity to sit in it as well. And Mars in Virgo, yes, has the ability to heal. Yes, has the ability to destroy. What are we going to do with it? We're lucky because this sextile aspect is going to lend us a little bit of a break where we get to tap into our passion, our anger, and boss up, being courageous, taking an action on our feelings that takes one step closer to the light and creates a lot more distance between the dark. This is where we start to save ourselves. This is where we take an action, make a move, take a step in the right direction when we stop and we're asked and we're faced by Saturn earlier what you want to do with this emotional intensity. The moon in Scorpio then makes an aspect to Chiron, the wounded healer. Oh Lord. And here's the thing. The moon in Scorpio and what Chiron has in common right now is Chiron's in Aries. Scorpio and Aries have something in common. What is that? Mars. Mars is the primary ruler of Arian energy and the co-ruler of Scorpio energy. This is an opportunity, a tension point that doesn't feel good. It highlights the inner conflict that we're going through as if it wasn't evident already. Provides us with a choice point where we get to learn, where we get to heal, where we get to put an arrow in negative Nancy and get her to sit her ass down for just a second so that we can compose ourselves, put ourselves back together so that we can think clearly and feel our emotions clearly enough to make the right decision in moving forward in our soul's growth, in our soul's purpose, in our soul's mission. The moon in Scorpio makes an aspect with Pluto, who rules over Scorpio, and this is where we have an aha moment. This is where we are presented with an opportunity to up the ante, to step into the light, to step into our power, to change the way that we have been acting, thinking, and feeling, and truly align our heart with our head and unravel some of the negative narratives in our psyche, in our heart space that we have just had on loop. This is a beautiful energy because the moon in Scorpio kind of, in this aspect with Pluto, the ruler over Scorpio, provides some psychic insight, provides an aha moment of healing, provides an opportunity for us to stand up and say, you know what? Yeah, I've been through hell. I've been sitting in darkness. I have a lot of pain. I have a lot of trauma. I'm not setting up camp here. I'm going to use this and let this fuel the flame, the passions, the desires that I now have to move out of this toxic cycle, out of these lower vibrations, and to move closer to the dreams and the visions that I have so bravely and courageously allowed myself to dream of. And that is where we turn our pain into power. The moon in Scorpio semi-squares Venus. And as you know, Venus is in Virgo and she's kind of, having a hard time keeping it all together. She goes from being certain to being uncertain. She goes from feeling stable to feeling unstable. She is all over the place because right now what's happening for her is she's having a hard time coming out of the darkness, coming out of the pain. She instead is so uncertain with what it is that she should do now, especially in her relationships that are really triggering her to either A, fall back into old patterns and stay in that toxic cycle, or B, be brave enough to set new boundaries and new parameters in these energy exchanges for her to be a little bit more proactive in advocating for herself and providing herself with more sense of stability, more value, and more worth within herself, which of course will overflow in the energy exchange of the relationship. The moon in Scorpio, making this little conversation with Venus in Virgo, is going to slow down the train of thought, slow down the emotions, enough to identify what it is that she's actually undecided on. Sometimes we get so uncertain about one thing that it overflows in our mental plane and our heart space, and suddenly we're uncertain about everything. Somebody would say, well, what is it that you're trying to figure out? We wouldn't even know what to tell them. It's just the confusion becomes so overwhelming and so dominant that everything becomes uncertain and unstable. So at this particular point in time, the moon in Scorpio, who of course is powerful enough to acknowledge the negative and turn it into a positive, to sit in the darkness and lead you into light, to acknowledge the pain and show you how to turn it into power. The moon in Scorpio is just simply saying to Venus and Virgo, what is the problem? Tell me, oh analytical one, what is the actual problem? What are you undecided about? What are you unsure about? What is the problem? Because the Virgo energy has a huge ability to come up with any solution, but we have to clearly define what the problem is first. The moon in Scorpio sits across from Uranus, the great awakener in Taurus. And this is really going to trigger that earlier confusion with Venus and Virgo, the indecision, because we asked that question, what is the problem? What is wrong? You know, sometimes when a toddler is throwing a shit fit and having a tantrum and just screaming about something, and you can't hear them. You don't know what the problem is, and you just keep saying, what's the issue? What's the problem? Use your words. What's the issue? What's the problem? They don't even know. They're just so worked up. They had the final straw, just break the camel's back, and they just throw a tantrum about anything and everything. They can't even identify what actually set them off. This is what is happening to us. And so the moon in Scorpio opposing the great awakener in Taurus, who is all about, our routines, our relationships, our values, our worth, our future plans and goals. Now, Uranian energy, like I said, pre-shadow period, losing its strength, going a little bit off the deep end, if you will, with the energies, is going to add to the chaos and confusion, going to kind of show us where it is that we have to have a mental breakdown, throw that tantrum in order for us to get it out of our system, for us to be able to really, truly identify the problem as we break down, and to get us back down to the bottom of the barrel so that we can have a different perspective on how it is that we're going to build ourselves back up. So we're asking ourselves, what is the problem? What is the problem? What are you unsure about? What are you undecided about? What are you confused about? What do you need? What can I do for you? All of this kind of seems like a little bit aggressive. And that's how we're going to end the day, is feeling very chaotic, feeling very confused, feeling like we need to fight, but we don't know what we're fighting because we're fighting ourselves. We don't even know how to come up with a solution because we don't know what the problem is. And so we have to kind of expect that there's a little bit of a breakdown before we're going to have a beautiful breakthrough.